Hello and welcome to Sea of Nerves, the podcast that helps you navigate life's storms and develop practices to support your own worthiness and love. Are you ready to embark on a healing journey together? Throughout this podcast, we'll explore the challenges and triumphs of coping with grief and trauma, and we'll provide you with tools and practices to help you navigate the rough seas of life. As we embark on this journey together, I invite you to imagine a sea of nerves within you, a vast and powerful force that allows you to be yourself and navigate any storm that comes your way. Throughout this podcast, we'll explore how to tap into that sea of nerves and unleash your full potential, even in the face of adversity. So grab a life jacket and let's sail together. We'll discover the strength and resilience within you and chart a course towards healing and growth. Welcome. I'm your host, Darian. In today's episode, we're going to talk about a powerful tool for coping with grief and trauma. Ta-da! Bargaining! You named it. That's what we're doing. But before we dive into this topic, let's just take a moment to center ourselves with a quick breathing exercise. So do it with me really quick. Close your eyes, take a deep breath in, hold your breath for a moment, and then release it slowly, letting go of any tension or stress you may be holding on to. Take another few deep breaths in and out at your pace. Let that oxygen flow into your body, especially as you exhale slowly, feeling that sense of calm wash over you. Ooh, man, I feel good. So now that we're centered and focused, let's explore how bargaining can be a useful tool for navigating the stormy seas of grief and trauma. So, if you have yet to catch up on the last episodes, here's a quick recap. We've gone through the denial we will face in ourselves while dealing with grief, which is the first stage. And then in this stage, the practice of rebuilding yourself while in that denial. And then we talk about the second step, which is isolation, and how it can creep to the surface, which pulls us under to old refrained habits that make us feel comfortable and old structures that make us feel that that's the right way, even though we know it's not. And then we discuss anger in a 2-part series of learning how to address it and let it go. And now that we've floated ourselves halfway through this valley that is the shadow of grief, we can move on to the phase of bargaining, right? It's the next step. And I really do hope that those of you this does reach, that it does help one of you in navigating, because it does help me in discussing this grief, because I find myself still grieving certain things in areas of my life. In another light, on Sunflower Soul Healing, who I've mentioned before, Molly. Please give her a follow. She really deserves it. Like, she puts great energy out there to heal people, and totally worth a follow. She deserves it, like I said. But she phrased it in the best way I could put it, is that grief is like glitter. You can't really get rid of it, and you'll find random specks all over at any moment of time. And I think she quoted that right in her last live episode of her Reiki that she does on TikTok, and you can find it on YouTube as well. And so I really resonated with that, and I found that I just loved it because it's so true. You know, we'll feel like we're over it, but we'll find like a random speck, and we're like, oh man, I thought I got rid of this, and here it is. I have to deal with it and look at it and just try to get rid of it in any way possible. And that's why I really liked how she phrased it, because I think we all can relate to that visual of glitter. And even though time will pass and heal our wounds, that's how tricky grief is. And that's what I'm hoping to help provide you with today, is a partner in crime to navigate these rough waters with. Today, however, we are going to explore how the bargaining stage of grief can be particularly challenging for those of us who are pretty fiercely independent individuals. I feel like most of us who I feel are listening to this or looking for self-development or self-care are mainly independent individuals who have to navigate life's storms on their own. And these individuals value their self-reliance, their resilience, and most likely are reluctant to ask for any help. And if it sounds like you, you're not alone. You're not. I'm raising my hand high up in the air because that's me. In fact, many of you may relate to these characteristics. So why don't we take a closer look at these unique challenges we face as these fiercely independent individuals while we're dealing with the bargaining stage of grief. So the bargaining stage of grief is one of the common stages that a lot of people experience after a loss. You know, this can be related to a loss of health, a loss of identity, a loss of a person or thing or place. It really kind of resonates with anything that we lose in our life that we may have had an expectation, or I'm trying to put a good word to it that also describes maybe a little higher than expectation. Maybe one of you knows the word I'm looking for. Please comment. Please share. I would love to hear from you. But I'm just trying to say that I feel like a lot of us can resonate. We've lost something in our lives at some point. What it might not be a loss to someone else, but it is a loss to you. And that's ultimately what I'm just trying to describe. And we all face it, right? Like, it's a human thing. Nothing is owned. We don't own anything at all. The universe owns it. At some point, we have to realize that we own nothing on this earth. We own ourselves and ourselves only. We have to drop that expectation. And this was a hard one for me. I don't know if you can relate with this. It was a hard one for me. I like to be in control a lot. And I feel like as us fiercely individuals who value our independence, that this is a particularly valuable thing, is having control over our outcomes. And I know that was a hard one for me to kind of drop and let go, that I can't control everything. I can control myself, my emotions, and how I react to situations, but everything else is pretty much out of my hands. So another thing, if you can relate with that or sounds like you're not alone. I definitely am still navigating that water of losing that sense of need of controlling every outcome. And I feel this is a part of that bargaining stage, and a common one at that we experience. And it's one that a lot of us individuals will try to find a way to attempt to reverse the situation or change the outcome of this loss, whatever it may be, and whatever this loss is to you. And as I referenced before, they might be multiple losses stacked up. You thought you grieved, but you haven't fully grieved all the way through, or it's like that speck of glitter. It just has come back because something triggered you. And that's okay. That's all right. But trying to negotiate a different outcome is, one, it's common, so you're not alone. Your complete human psychology and normal behavior, especially in this stage of grieving, will do anything to, change the way the outcome came out. Especially, like I said, if you're like me, and want to have control of the outcome, and then it dropped or didn't exceed to your expectation like maybe you wanted. And then when that happens, we can feel like maybe we have little control over our situation. And then we feel guilty and regretful about things that we may have did or didn't do before the loss and even after or during. And I know I've felt times where I wish I have done things differently, or I feel like I'm responsible for my loss of some way, my loss of family rejection, my loss of just identities, loss of some friendships. There's lots of things I've had to go through to grieve. And I say these things because I feel, and I hope, again, it helps one individual know they're not alone, especially when it comes to talking about things like friendships. And, I'm just being completely vulnerable, to be honest. These things are things that we grieve that hurt, and it can make us feel really alone. And then we'll feel guilty and find all these different ways to make ourselves the responsible ones. And it's not the case. That's not always how life works. And it's just important to note that if you're like me and you may face these features, that it doesn't occur in a linear or predictable way. Nothing does. And we all experience grief differently. But our common understanding comes from knowing what the stage of bargaining looks like, especially in grief, and how we can recognize this and find a way to cope it with our emotions. Not the world's emotions, but our emotions, which can make this stage of grief particularly more challenging, as we may be used to relying on ourselves, and then it makes us struggle with these feelings of helplessness or vulnerability during the bargaining stage of grief. And maybe you feel like this, and maybe you feel like we should be able to negotiate our outcome and control the outcome. And the more we fight that feeling of frustration, of feeling like we should have control over it, the more angry we get. And the best thing we can do is realize we don't have control over it. And there's no negotiating it, there's only accepting it. And I think it's highly important to go in to say it's accepting who you are now, too. It's accepting that, you know what, hey, I am in this stage of my life, and that's okay. Maybe I'm not at acceptance in this stage of my life. That's okay. But I do want to state, if you do feel like this resonates with you, that it might be really helpful to support or seek support. Seek any kind of support, maybe like therapy or a good friend or something you can do to help you talk about what's been difficult for you, and maybe what's a burden. I know, as we just discussed, I know that asking for help may be a sign for weaknesses for you, as it used to be for me. And maybe you don't want to burden others with your problems. There's, multiple ways that make it difficult for us to seek out that support. And I just want you to know that I understand, and I hope you feel heard and validated in those feelings. But I do hope you can cope with those emotions and find something to help you support that. That way you can move through that bargaining stage and continue on your healing journey. So I just want to recap that. If we can recognize our emotions, acknowledge and accept these emotions during the bargaining stage of grief, and that may include feelings of guilt, regret, anger, sadness, But by recognizing these emotions, we can move through this stage. And as I said before, seeking support, whether it's a family, a friend, a therapist, support group, anything where you feel safe to share your experiences and connect with others who are going through similar struggles. I really hope you can find that here in this community of Sea of Nerves as well. Because I really hope it can also help you practice the self-care and taking care of yourself. The most important thing you can do in any stage of grief. Make time for those activities. Make sure you make time for yourself because you deserve it. You are worthy. You are capable. Anything that brings you joy, anything, spend time doing it. And make sure you get enough rest and, practice relaxation techniques like the breathing one we just did. Just big inhale and a big exhale. Just 3 of those, even lock yourself in a dark room just to let your stimulation, just bringing that down. Anything that helps you to cope with your emotions and any techniques that can help you get through that. That's what's important in acknowledging what's in your control. And that's the most important thing is going, I can't control the situation, but I can control my breathing. I can control how I react. No one said it'll be easy, but I am with you right here the entire way. And if you are currently coping with grief and trauma, it's important to remember that it's okay to ask for help and to seek the support that you need. Maybe take out a note page or a journal page and go, what is it that I desire? What is it the support that I need? What do I need to feel supported and seen, validated and heard? Coping with grief is a process. So, as I've discussed before, what might have helped you in the past might not help you now. So it's important to give you and yourself, you and yourself, whichever one. It's important to remember to give yourself the time and space that you need to find the things, techniques, practices, resources to help you feel healed. Remember to be gentle with yourself and know that healing is possible with that time, and I hope the support you feel here. I hope you know you're not alone and that these resources are available to help you through this difficult time. And just remember that healing is a journey and we're in this together. So tune in, as in our next episode, we'll be exploring the next stages of grief. I invite you to join me as we continue to navigate through the waters of life's storms. Remember, you're not alone, and together we can develop the practices that will support our worthiness and love that you deserve. Thank you for joining me today on Sea of Nerves, and I can't wait to connect with you again soon.